Welcome to this series on web accessibility. Now, it's a topic that's close to my heart and something I do day to day as an accessibility engineer alongside my UI development role. Now, according to WHO, over 1 billion people live with some form of disability. That's 15% of the world's population. Now, approximately 270 million people have moderate to severe vision impairment as well, a number that could triple due to population growth and aging. Now, when building a digital project of any kind, creatives and developers are usually focused on the visual impact or making it mobile friendly or optimized for search engines. Now, accessibility, on the other hand, is often overlooked, especially if the team doesn't have direct experience with a disability. However, this series is more than about meeting W3C accessibility standards, but more so about helping to create a more inclusive and empathetic internet for everyone. Imagine, for whatever reason, you couldn't use Amazon, Google, YouTube, Netflix, eBay, Wikipedia, or any of these high traffic sites. And that's the reality for a large portion of society, that some people simply can't use websites as normal. Things have begun to really change in the last few years. If you're working in the web industry, then you're going to be a part of this movement and you'll witness firsthand the global shift that's taking place right now. Originally, if we go back to webmasters and developers and designers that didn't care about responsive design before 2007 and the iPhone, responsive design truly came into its own 3 years later in 2010 from an article by Ethan Maricote in the publication A List Apart. And he spoke about responsive design at its core for any website. Similarly, we see the same thing happening with accessibility now, with a movement that sees accessibility as a standard business requirement from clients. They're demanding it. However, accessibility is slightly different. In 1998, Bill Clinton signed a bill called the Rehabilitation Act. In particular, a revised Section 508 was expanded to include the World Wide Web, which is a very small section. It mandated that any websites published by or used by the government or federal agencies be completely accessible to those with disabilities. It's fairly reasonable. But here in the UK, we have the Disability Discrimination Act of 1995, but it wasn't until 2003 that an accompanying code practice ensured that it covered the digital world. And the newly minted European Accessibility Act, EAA, brings together the updated web accessibility guidelines with others relating to smartphones, public terminals, ATMs, ticketing machines, telecoms and broadcasting, and all favours of public transport, and require the member states to comply with the final milestone being in June 2025. So it's still something that's in flux, it's still moving around. What all that translates to is that the web is currently not accessible for all. It's not something that's widely accepted as standard practice, and it's quite difficult, costly, and time consuming to implement. Though, as we've explained before, that opinion is now shifting. With a few simple tips and an understanding of best practices, you can help make a day-to-day impact on the work you produce through this course. You include those who would otherwise not have access to your information. And that is exactly why accessibility matters. And this series will include handy real-world tips and tricks on how to tackle accessibility issues, as well as going over the core World Content Accessibility Guidelines to a AA standard. This will explain what those guidelines even mean and what impact they can have on an end user. By the end of this series, you will have fully empowered with the knowledge to make real-world changes, impact access to information on everything you work on going forward. As those who work on the web industry, we forget to realise the large impact we have on all the internet goers day to day. And these simple changes will affect many people without you even knowing. After watching this, and you decide to use any of what you cover, you'll be a part of a new wave of thinking that's aiming to make the web a more empathetic and inclusive place for all. I'll see you in the next video where we begin our journey. Until then, make sure to like and subscribe to keep yourself informed of the next accessibility video in this series when it comes out. But otherwise, I've been Harry, and this has been Curious Byte.